Mike, give me the high sign. So, all right. Glad everybody's here this morning. Oh, new books. No? No. Okay. Mike, give me the high sign. So, all right. Few more Sundays. Glad everybody's here this morning. Oh, all right. Glad to see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. Oh, all right. Glad to see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. Oh, all right. Glad to see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad everybody's here this morning. All right. And see everybody. As always, glad
With
everybody's
him,
here this
let the
morning.
whole
All right.
building
And see everybody.
join together.
As
Rise up
always,
with
glad
him,
everybody's
let
here
the
this
whole
morning.
building
All
the
right.
Lord.
And see
Join
everybody.
together.
As always,
Rise
glad
up with
everybody's here
him,
this
let the
morning.
whole
All right.
building
And
the
see
Lord.
everybody.
Join together.
As always, glad
Rise
everybody's
up
here
with
this
him,
morning.
let
All
the
right.
whole
And see
building
everybody.
the Lord.
So as we studied many times. So as we said the Gentiles studied many times. So as we studied many times. So as we studied many times. So as we studied many times. Multiplied studied many times. Multiplied studied many times. Multiplied studied many times. That is with us. That is with us. That is with us. That is with us. We were at a memorial service for my Aunt Claire, and married to Aunt Geneva and Dad's brother, Uncle Guy. Hadn't seen part of that family in a lot of years, quite a few years. And after the little graveside memorial service for Aunt Claire, everybody wanted to go to a restaurant and eat. We're sitting there. I'm sitting there next to my cousin Guyleen, and when they came and asked, what did she order? Blue cheese dressing on her salad. And I thought, wow, must be a web thing, I guess. It must be a web thing, I guess. And here we all in that same family, even cousins that never was even around very much. I mean, a lot, whatever. And wow, they like that same thing. But at the same time, let's say we know there's differences, and as he points out, identical twins offer certain exceptions. You probably have heard me talk about. We had to learn about there was a Minnesota twin studies years ago, and has to this day has been recognized as a very significant study because what they did was number two for two reasons. The numbers of people that they kept track of, and number two, which is unheard of because it's a very expensive project for over 20 or 30 year period of time. It's very uncommon to take that much effort to follow these same people for 20, 30 years. But these were twins that were separated at birth and never ever knew each other of their whole lives. And they were amazed, and that was a point was, and a great, um, I guess you say, evidence for genetics being involved in not only how you look, but everything. So one of the amazing accounts that came out of that study, and that wasn't unique to this one couple of guys, these two brothers, but these were the most remarkable. It was like these two brothers that were like Michigan somewhere. I think it was up in Michigan. These guys wound up. They lived about 4 blocks from each other, but their whole lives for some reason never ever ran into each other. Are identical twins, never ran into each other. And when they caught up with them, like say, they knew about them at birth, and then they followed them. And when they caught up with them, like say, they're grown. Both of them were like plumbers. Both of them drove like white Chevrolet Impalas. Both of them were married to women named Mary. Both of them, like favorite hobby was bowling. It was like down the list, one after another. Both of them. I mean, not only in, like say, in appearance, but in job. Their jobs and everything, their likes, interest, and disinterest, all the same across the board.
There was a study I saw, basically same thing. They finally informed the twin, it was girls, they 20s or 30s, they really looked more in the 30s, brought them together for the first time, and they brought a present to each other, and it was the same thing.
Yeah. So, the thing is, great similarities, but at the same time, too, as they're kind of pointing out, even in the same family, though, there's still a lot of differences as well. Mom was bringing that point up just the other day when we went into Thursday. I had to go into town and was talking about brothers, how different, she said as night and day, and I think making reference to me and Rick, how different we were, and deciding different siblings that we talk about how different sometimes siblings are many times. But the point he makes is, as we get ready to go into looking at the context, humanity is one large family. And the solution for a fractured, divided humanity is in today's lesson. Paul, of course, writes the book of Ephesians. We know, like I say, the book of Acts in chapter 15 talks about how he was a part of the Jerusalem Council, which addressed the question was, is it necessary for Gentile men to be circumcised in order for them to be considered a Christian? Or in essence, bottom line, whether a person needed to become a Jew first before they could become a Christian, which Paul, we know, was very vehemently, adamantly like, no, that's not what Christianity, that's not what Jesus is all about. Jerusalem Council decided that its circumcision was not required. And in fact, as we know, we saw it about 3 different times, cited over and over. What they decided out of the Jerusalem Council was the rule then was for Gentile Christians was what? Not to eat any meat with blood in it, to abstain from fornication or adultery, fornication, or any of those other things. And there was the third thing. Sandy, you remember what can't remember what. But that was the gist of it. Okay, you Gentiles, stay away from these sexual sins. Don't eat any meat with blood in it. And the question was like, well, why would those things matter And I think the point was, and the commentators, as they kind of draw us back into that time period, is what Gentiles were what first? Pagans. And eating meat with blood in it, and those sexual sins were a large part of the pagan culture. And what they were saying is basically come out of that heathen pagan culture. Come out of that culture is basically what their point was. So here we see Paul finds the need to revisit this whole issue about, in the book of Ephesians, of circumcision. So as he mentions here, like I said, formerly you were Gentiles by birth, called uncircumcised by those, like say, that called them circumcision, and he, as he mentions here, he was not shy about basically, as I call it, addressing the elephant in the room. The other, he mentions the other word, Greeks, talking about this word Gentiles. Greeks was also a synonym for Gentiles. But they kind of don't, like I say, not to really get into a whole lot of nitty-gritty about this. But circumcision was a sign of inclusion in the Abraham covenant. And we realize it was a symbol or sign of removal, which we know what the process is. But the point that Paul is making, and we're going to see, is because as we are all spiritual Jewish, we're all children of Abraham spiritually. We're all, if you want to think about it, we're all spiritually Jewish. And they refer to the circumcision of the heart. Okay? Circumcision of the heart is removing what? Sin. Removing that part of us that is unclean. Sin. Okay? So, spiritually, we are all Jewish people. Okay? You think about it. Now, the Jews of that day and time had a real problem with that concept. And we know today that Jewish people that are not converted to Christianity, that are still strictly Jewish, not Christian, have a real problem with this idea. You can't call yourself a Jew. You have to be born. You have to be blood born a Jewish person. So they still, like I say, today, this day and time, they still have a real issue. Okay? This is the thing that Paul is fighting against. And we, in the book of Acts, in our studying through the book of Acts, we see every time he would go to a town and try to preach, here came this group of Jewish people wanting to beat him up, haul him off to trial, whatever, because this guy keeps wanting to insist that these Christian people are, are part of us, the Jewish nation. That was kind of part of what their issues were. So, when you were a Gentile, before you became a Christian, you were separate from Christ. Excluded from citizenship in Israel, and foreigners to the covenants and promise, without hope and without God in the world. That was before they became Christians. In his argument, he talks about 4 ways he describes this contrast between them, Gentiles and Jews. Number 1, he says they were not part of the citizenship in Israel. Number 2, they had no part in the covenant of the promise. Number 3 and 4, they were without hope, and he said, and they were without God. But, it says, verse 13, there's always that, but. Now, in Christ Jesus, you were far away, but you have been brought near. Brought near what? By the blood of Jesus. For he is our peace. Made the 2 groups one. That word peace. Make it good. and make restitution. So, the blood of Christ. How can the cross unite people? How is that possible? Because this is the thing we're going to propose to our world, our society today. We got all these people divided on lots of issues. How is it the cross is able to unite?
United under Jesus and his teachings.
Okay.
Being a Christian.
We all realize that we're all sinners, and the only way to salvation is through Jesus.
Okay. All right. For people to be united, we all have to, what? Agree. And the suggested is this, is that the only thing in this world that is possible for people to agree on is the gospel message. Now, that does not mean that just because we have the gospel message, people are going to agree. We know. There's a lot of people that do not agree that the gospel is true. But it's been suggested that that it is the only thing that would really actually achieve true peace. So let's just, as an example, okay, people are black and white. The suggestion is that without the gospel, without the church, without a faith in God, these two groups are like oil and water. And the only way is to have a faith. Agreement, some type of an agreement. And maybe I just say a lasting agreement. So I think about, I would just like to say, is I think about maybe, in my life, maybe an example. When I worked at Montgomery Wards, I had to work with a lot of black people. And we all got along pretty well. But I got to get to thinking about it. One of my immediate supervisors, Helen Galbraith, I dig in just a little bit. Why we got along so well was she was a youth choir director for a Black Baptist church in Oklahoma City. And you heard me tell the story about when she found out right off the bat that I was in Bible college studying for the ministry, I have to say, and she expressed it to me while we worked there at Montgomery Wards, that she was so proud of me for my choice, for my job choice. We had something in common, not just the fact that we worked together, but we had something very deep that we had in common, and that was our relationship to Christ. And I would imagine that probably all the other people that we all got along together, there was an influence, I think, in everybody's lives. The church, Christianity in some way. There was a lot of those individuals that didn't attend church, but I guarantee you they had that background in their lives. And we could think about probably lots of other situations that we have going on right now. Divisions. Like I say, and I agree that the only thing that's going to unite people in our society, in our United States of American society today, is Jesus. Without him, They're going to continue to be fussing and fighting to the end time. All right. The cross is what can unite people. We can all agree. I'm excited. Think about this. Think about this. It's how we, and in a way, can be united with our Assembly of God brothers and our Methodist brothers and sisters and all these other denominations. We don't agree on a lot, but we do agree on the cross of Jesus. Okay. So as he mentions here, he himself, Jesus our peace, destroyed the barrier, the dividing wall of hostility. The cross breaks down those barriers. Setting aside his flesh, the law with its commands and regulations, his purpose was to create himself one new humanity out of the two, making peace. It talks about setting aside in this flesh the law with its commands and regulations. I just saw, like I say, a video just yesterday, I guess it was. I've been getting a series of videos coming across from John MacArthur. Everybody knows preacher, and the question was a young lady that had I guess there's been a whole series of people that were allowed to ask him questions about certain things, and she was talking about how that she was having bad thoughts, and how could she know, if she was really saved or not? And he had a great, wonderful answer about, and he makes reference to Romans chapter 7. The things I do, I don't want to do. The things I should be doing, I'm not doing. And how that salvation is not dependent upon those things, our works. He is setting aside in his flesh the law with its commands and regulations. That's what he's talking about. That it's not works. Keeping the law is not, is not what it's about. Now, as he mentions here, it does not mean there is no law value in the law. Nor does it mean that Christianity is a lawless faith. Christianity is not a religion of rule keeping, but a way of faith. It's faith. Result of Christ's work he calls it a new humanity. It's inclusive. Christians of Jewish background were free to continue their observances as Paul himself often did. And that's the thing, a lot of people, that thing that maybe part of the confusion was that thinking that, okay, you've got to be a Jew before you can become a Christian. Because Paul continued to be and observe. He would, like I say, all those things, those rites and rituals that they have. Now, here's the thing that in a lot of those rules, those rituals and celebrations and festivals are a part of their religion. So this is the thing, and like I say, I know I made a reference before, but maybe to kind of help us identify with that whole idea of Paul, continuing to observe his Jewish, all those Jewish observances. especially in our region, like I say, I know I commented and made reference to it before, but we have a lot, in our area, we have a lot of Comanche people, okay? And I always look back. Clara obviously identifies even a lot closer than, I think everybody knows I think you're an enrolled member of the tribe, Comanche, okay? Those powwows are still going on. Those powwows and a lot of those things are still happening and going on. And I will tell you, most all the Comanche people I know are Christian people. But they still go to powwows and they still dance in the arena and all those things. Why? Because they're Comanches.
Customs.
Yeah. That's their identity. That's a part of who they are. They grew up with that their whole lives. It's the same thing with Jewish people. Paul was just like that. Hey, I'm a Christian, yeah, but you know what? I grew up my whole life as a Jew. I'm a Jew. That's who I am. And so he's going to continue to do all those, the Seder and the Feast of Tabernacles and the Feast of Booths and all those things. He's continuing to do those things because he's a Jew. And Paul wants them to understand that has nothing, him observing the Passover and Yom Kippur and all those things, Paul wants them to understand it has nothing to do with Christianity. Has nothing to do with Christianity. He said it's just me being a Jew. Like I say, Jesus making peace, one body to reconcile both of them to God, by which he put to death their hostility. Repairing a broken relationship. Okay. As we try to promote unity, what boundaries should we not cross when promoting unity?
Compromise our principles.
Okay, compromising our principles. Paul talks about had become all things to all people that I might win some. But don't you know, he had some boundaries on that. Okay. I think as an example, I think about Ron Ellick. You heard me talk about Ron Ellick that preached at Apache, went to Midwest Christian College, preached at Apache, then to Africa, and then he came and had the bikers ministry. He was living in Washington State that had a bikers ministry, specifically with the Hells Angels. And so, when I got to meet him after all those years, after Apache, Oklahoma, and he was, like I say, a mountain of a man, great big, but when we met him, he had his leathers on, and driving a Harley, and had his leathers on, and had his hair long, and big long beard. Because he said, you kind of have to fit, if you're going to talk to and have an audience and have them want to hear what you have to say, listen to you, Hell's Angels, you kind of have to fit in a little bit. But they started talking about tact, and I don't want to open this can of worms, but everybody wants to know the tattoos right or wrong. I don't want to go there. But they started talking about getting tattoos, and he's like, no. He said that was a personal thing for him, but he just let them know, not crossing that line. Tattoos are not for me. Not going to do it. Not going to do anything. I'm not going to get any piercings or tattoos or nothing like that. He said, I'll grow my hair long. I'll grow my beard long. But he said, that's the line. That's the limit for me. Well, like I say, tattoos. I don't want to get there. I'm going to set that aside. So a lot of people want to know, is it right, wrong? That's for a whole whole other thing. But there are some things, boundaries. Let me just, like say, let me just open that can of worms. Well, we'll open that can of worms. The church right now is having a whole really big deal. There's a couple of issues right now, having a really big deal with abortion rights and LGBTQ2 whatever plus. And they're attacking on the plus now. Okay. There's some boundaries. And we know there's a lot of churches that are compromising.
I was gonna say, we start setting boundaries for our children from a time they're just toddlers. Start setting boundaries, not to cross, teaching them, not to touch something wrong. Don't do this, don't do that. You start setting boundaries. So it's nothing new to us as we grow older and learn more about Christ and what we're supposed to be as Christians, what we can do, what we should not do. And I think where our society is failing today is that they did not start setting boundaries younger.
Yeah.
So that when it comes time as they grow up, you're also teaching them boundaries regarding Christianity, Christ, do's and don'ts there. And I think society is failing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this is the thing that even with those issues that are out there now, the point is this: we can still promote unity, and this is the thing that I think it has been a really important message is that some people want to get angry at some of these people and some of these issues and some of these people. The message though is still God is a God of love, God of forgiveness, and we have to really basically focus on that. If you're ever going to reach these people, they have got to know they are loved. And that yes, we're not going to allow certain things, but at the same time that they need to know the message that, first of all, they need to understand there's a difference between who you are and behavior. And I love you. I don't like the behavior, but I love you. And they have to know that. They have to be aware of that, no matter what you do, still love you. That's why Renee, I think it's one of the ringtones on her phone, but she came across that song. I really like it. But the main gist of the song is "Gonna Love You Anyway." Well, if you listen to the whole song, it's actually it starts off kind of they're talking about a relationship between a guy and a girl kind of thing. But when you listen to it long enough and listen to it close enough, then you hear basically it. They make a really good. They did it in a very really clever way. It's a message from God to us. Gonna love you anyway. We all need to hear that message. God's gonna love us anyway. Well, that's a message that we have to have for everybody. Gonna love you anyway. All right. He talks about peace. What does peace with God mean to you? Knowing He's always there, okay?
He knows our every need.
Knows our every need.
He's in control.
He's in control. He's always there for us, and He's always in control. Always knows what we need.
You're trusting God.
Trust. Yes. That was one of the things John MacArthur, I remember in his talk, he was talking about people and their whole idea about salvation, and he brought up that point is that yes, we don't do the things we're supposed to do. We're sinners and we sin, but he talked about the importance of trust. Trusting God for salvation, trusting, yes, that we think about peace. I think about having peace with God, meaning that I can approach Him and He welcomes me. The prodigal son. He only hopes that I can maybe become a lowly worker or my employee of my father. And what happens? The father takes him in. You are my son. Kill the fatted calf. Let's celebrate. No, you're not going to be just my lowly employee. You are my son. To me, that's peace with God. You're going to sit down at the table with me. I can see the wheels are turning. Well, yeah.
Well, I was just thinking, He knows our joys, and He's happy for us and with us. He knows every time that we have sadness or sorrow, and He suffers with us. He
Yes.
feels that pain with us. But He's there to lift us up. And we know that His love surrounds us, and that no matter how difficult, He's there for us.
Yeah.
And He will see us through.
Yeah.
And no matter how small the pain might be, what inconsequential, no matter, He knows it, and He feels our pain, and He's there for us.
Yeah. There is a song, I don't remember now, called Tears in Heaven. And it's the point, the Bible tells us, weep with those who weep and rejoice with those who rejoice. Expecting us to do that. Well, He never expects us to do anything that He would not be willing to do. The thing is, yes.
I tell you, to have peace with Him through the most difficult of times, it just sees you through, and
Yeah.
you just do not understand how until you go through it yourself.
Yeah. The thing, that's the point. He grieves right along with us when we are going through it. He grieves right along with
And
us.
He gives you peace.
All right, so we are no longer strangers. We're fellow citizens, members of His household. Like I said, we are. If you want to think about it, as he makes reference to Romans 11, we are being grafted in. We are, like I said, we're Jews. I like the term I like better, okay? That's been applied to the Jewish nation. We are God's chosen people. The Jewish Israeli nation has been known as God's chosen people. We, as Christians, we are God's chosen people. All right. So think about what we have just enough time maybe for this last one. What things do we need to overcome in order to be welcoming to newcomers? we talked about, okay, welcoming newcomers, but actually I like the second, more thought-provoking question. What things do we have to overcome or need to overcome in order to be welcoming to newcomers?
Don't be judgmental. Don't.
Being judgmental, okay? We need to.
Especially on someone's appearance or way they talk, look, correct.
Okay, so.
Shyness.
Okay, shyness, being judgmental. Let me just, as they say, hit us right where we're at. Okay. We have a cousin. Okay, everybody knows what I'm talking about. That has darkened our doors the last couple of weeks. How normally you can imagine some if we're not careful being judgmental. It's real easy. It's real easy to do that. Be judgmental. Huh?
That's really hard.
It's a hard one. You know, how do we address it? How do we, what should we do and how do we address it? And how do we be Christian?
What would Jesus do?
What would Jesus do? Yeah. It creates quite a dilemma. Think about a dilemma. And especially, like say, I would say churches, smaller churches like ours, creates quite a dilemma. Larger churches, I think about when I was at Enid, Davis Park Christian Church, Enid, Oklahoma. They had a ministry of, they had a group of, 20, I'm going to say 20, maybe 30 adult MR people. These people they were residents of a place called the Sunshine Resident Home. And it was like a type of nursing home, but it was strictly for that population. People that had what we call today, politically correct, developmental disability. And what we all knew, like I said, used to in the day, MR people. But what that church, like I said, they had, like I said, a big enough church, they had the personnel, the numbers of personnel that dealt with that. They had their own church, basically. They came to the church building, but for a large part of the time on a Sunday morning, they had, it's kind of like children's church. They had their own church. Okay? Because this is the thing, this is the dilemma part. All of us need, for our worship time, we need to have our time uninterrupted, non-distracted time, okay, to worship. That, like I said, that has created a dilemma for a lot of groups for a lot of years. Because that's the thing, some of that population, if they're left in church Sunday morning, because of the nature of who they are, created a lot of distraction. And I think we all understand this is kind of the nature of that condition that they have and they possess. So that's the thing, we had to really get, like I say, creative and innovative with what we do and how we do and how we serve those people. Okay. So, time. That's my cue. There's my time. Stop. All right. Hebrews 13 next week.